Bible is, among other things, the story of some very important walks. There's Adam and Eve walking with God in the cool of the day in the garden. Moses leading the Israelites into the roundabout way of the wilderness. There's the walk Joshua and the Israelites took around the walls of Jericho. There was the walk of the disciples on the road to Emmaus, or Paul on the road to Damascus. But I think maybe the most intriguing walk in all the Bible is the walk that Peter took on the Sea of Galilee, on the water. It's intriguing because it involves so many of the aspects of following Christ. Having the wisdom to discern when Jesus is present and how he's calling, having the courage to get out of the boat, the euphoria of walking on the water, and the fear and panic of failing and sinking, the sense of relief that Jesus is strong enough to save, and the wonder and adoration that Peter ends up worshiping Jesus with. I think this story is especially intriguing because, in a way, it's Jesus' invitation to all of us. Jesus is still looking for followers who are willing to get out of the boat and come to him on the water. So, if you're up for the challenge, let's go take a walk.
Almost 20 years ago, I wrote a book called What's So Amazing About Grace? In the years since that book came out, I can truly say that grace is still as amazing as ever. However, I now sense that we've got a problem. Not a problem with God's grace, nothing wrong with that, but a problem with how Christians are conveying that grace to the world around us. In our polarized, divided world, grace seems in vanishing supply. In my new book, Vanishing Grace, Whatever Happened to the Good News, I plunge headfirst into this problem. Why do so many people have such a negative reaction when they hear the word Christian? Why do so many young people especially turn away from the church? In this video study, you will meet several people whom I call grace dispensers. And they're people who are sharing the good news of the gospel, but in ways that connect to a broader world. You'll hear from a world-renowned artist who encourages others how to express their faith through art. We'll talk to an ordinary Canadian woman whose daughter was tragically murdered and hear how her reaction to that crime is changing lives. And then there's the story of a woman who saw Christians as the enemy, but then she experienced a most unlikely and radical conversion. Ordinary people, extraordinary people. They all tell amazing stories of grace, and in the process, they teach us how to communicate our faith more effectively. The gospel is alive and well. It's exactly what a thirsty world desperately needs. Together, let's learn how to present it in a way that truly does sound like good news.
Our world is in a tragic and bloody mess, and it isn't just bad luck. There's a force which drives people, you, me, politicians, and even whole nations in the wrong direction. Our world has tried to ignore it, but recent events have shown us we can't. We must take it seriously, and we must give it its true name: evil. We can't look honestly at the world without recognizing that evil exists. Real, serious evil is going on all the time. But it doesn't have to be this way. There is a solution, and it offers us a startling but effective way of dealing with evil in the real world. Unbelievable? Well, you may be surprised.
So what exactly is evil? And what do people like me mean when we talk about Jesus' death as some kind of victory over evil? It's my belief that in today's world we've been going about things in entirely the wrong way. We tried to pretend that evil didn't exist, or that if it did, it was just a little problem and we could deal with it quite easily.
It's all part of the arrogance of modern life. This is a can-do society, we're told. Our politicians, media pundits and economists seem to believe that humankind is basically good, that the world is basically benign, and that there's nothing fundamentally wrong with it that we can't put right. We just need to try a little bit harder, improve things a bit, introduce more Western-style democracy to the world, and then all our difficulties will vanish.
Even some Christians have spoken this way, that the great Victorian ideal of progress, with everything automatically getting better and better all the time, has infected a lot of our thinking and imagination. But if it were true, then we in the West, with our money and our technology and our education, would already be living in paradise. And we're not, are we?
Hi, my name is Adam Hamilton, and I'm the author of the book Why? Making Sense of God's Will. But my primary calling is serving as a pastor to a wonderful congregation of people in the Kansas City area. It's my experience as their pastor for more than 20 years that led me to write the book that I hope you have in your hand. This video is meant to introduce the themes of each chapter and to help facilitate discussion in small groups, book clubs, and Sunday school classes. I look forward to joining you each week. Each chapter in this book will focus on the why questions we sometimes ask in the face of suffering, unanswered prayer, and our efforts to understand God's will for our lives. In each, I invite you to be willing to question some of the common assumptions about God's will and God's ways. I'm certain this book won't answer all of your questions, but I hope it is helpful to you as readers as you seek to make sense of God's will.
The I am sayings do not just tell us about God and Jesus. They tell us about us. For instance, Jesus said, I am the light of the world, but in another place he also said, you are the light of the world. He said, I am the good shepherd, but he also tells us, tend my sheep. He said, I am the true vine, but he says to us, you are the branches. There's something about our own relationship with God, our own purpose for life, that's revealed by these sayings. So they become important not just for learning about who God is, but who we are. This is more than a sermon series or a worship series. It's more than a small group resource. It's a church-wide initiative that gets people studying and talking about the same material that develops Christ-likeness in people. And I think that's the greatest takeaway of a church using this together, is it forms Christ within us. People will not only understand better who Jesus is and why Jesus came, but they will have a deeper experience of His presence and His power in their lives. They will experience God. This will change people's lives.